Talk to me. wsRadio.com.
Welcome to Las Vegas is Talking with your host, the voice of Southern Nevada, John Donovan.
Hey, this is John Donovan. Welcome back to segment number 3 of Las Vegas is Talking. Well, listen, we have got a very special guest with us today. The purpose of our show, the mission of our show, is to reach out to the 2 million people that live here in Las Vegas and to also engage with the 40 million that visit. And every once in a while you can get a guest that can assist and make lives better for the people that live here, but also reach out and give people information far away from this location. In fact, we've had thousands of people listening to us live from Japan because of the work that we do with a wonderful society here called the Japan America Society of Nevada. Jason, just an absolute group. I want to welcome to the show this afternoon Dr. Roger Elmer, Doctor of Chiropractic, based here in Las Vegas with the Advanced Spinal Solutions. Dr. Elmer, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Good. And let me ask you something about chiropractic. It's been around a long time. I'm somewhat familiar with chiropractic because my father was a chiropractor for 37 years in Los Angeles from the Palmer School of Chiropractic, and that was in Iowa, I think, Davenport, Iowa. Yes. Are they still around? Is
yes.
Palmer?
Yeah, I graduated in 1992.
From Palmer?
From Palmer, yeah.
Because I know that my dad's relatives were amazed that as a young man he traveled all the way from Los Angeles to Iowa by train. And it's been a long time. How things change.
It was my great grandmother went to Palmer in 1912. Wow. I didn't know it until I was actually accepted to Palmer.
Holy cow.
That she had been there, and she writes in her journal of breaking the ice in the tub so she could take a bath before she went to school.
Oh, wow.
No. I had it pretty easy.
Isn't that something? Let's talk a little bit about your practice. I mentioned my dad back in the 20s was a chiropractor. What's changed?
The new brand and the new breed of chiropractic includes a significant amount of rehab. The important part of changing is to change the soft tissues that are in between the bones. We focused for so long on moving the bones and got really good at that. We were getting good at dealing with symptoms and dealing with some significant issues, but it wasn't changing and making it permanent. And so the new brand is a new kind of rehab that's going to change the white tissue, which is the ligaments, the discs, the fascia. Also, we're changing the red tissue, which is the muscles, but we're changing them in a different way. We tend to do exercises in a way with sets and reps that are going to exercise voluntary muscles and therefore muscle fibers and therefore voluntary nervous system. And posture is not voluntary. When Mom says sit up,
Mom knew what she was talking about.
Yeah. She said sit up, but you can't do it because you sit up and then you quit thinking about it.
Yeah.
Posture is an involuntary system, and so we have to exercise in a way that's going to activate the involuntary nervous system. Then we have to completely rewire the nervous system so that it operates the way it was intended to operate. Basically, what we do is, and I go around, teaching people to get their kids to crawl on the floor from birth, as they go through the crawling process, to not allow them to walk too soon. And that's how we're supposed to get the curves in our back and how we're supposed to get the mechanics and the neurology to run it. And so now I'm taking people after the fact, after they didn't develop the proper configuration, after they've had injuries, after they've had really bad problems with their discs over time, and I'm trying to undo all of those things.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Is there still the use of X-ray involved with chiropractic?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And in the new brand of chiropractic where we're doing spinal correction, we're using X-ray to prove not only what we've done, but prove that it's going to work before we ever do it.
I'm having to search some very rusty memory banks here, but I think it used to be called subluxation, was it?
Yes.
That's where you do the adjustment, the pushing of the back with the hands?
We're going to be doing specific adjusting to undo the effects of subluxation. Subluxation is where it takes an injury to ligaments for a bone to shift out of place, and when it shifts out of place, then it puts bad mechanics into play starts to create degeneration over time, but it also adversely impacts the nervous system, not just the nerves that are coming out, but also the spinal cord itself.
Well, I'll tell you, here's another tangent. You mentioned changing some things in sort of re-educating our body through sin. I'm paraphrasing some of the things you said. Mm-hmm. There's an amazing new book. I gave one to Lonnie Misalucha, who's a wonderful diva here in Las Vegas, amazing voice, that was written by the PhD that also discovered the medication that brought people out of that horrible disease where they're just catatonic. And there was a movie about it called Awakenings. Well, what he has proven now is that music changes the wiring of the brain. So when we say music calms the savage beast, it actually changes the brain. And it's all scientific, it's all there, all the studies and everything. So re-educating the body, I'm much more open to listening to these concepts than I was even a few years ago.
What we know about the brain and spinal cord has doubled in the last 5 years. And music, what we hear, also what we see, because we have 2 million nerve fibers coming in from each eye, and so we get a lot of input there. But imagine you have a spine that has 400 million nerve fibers. The biggest tract in your brain is called the cortical spinal cerebellar tract, and it has 400 million nerve fibers on it, which you think, well, that's a lot. But it's over 10 times more than what your eyes are inputting. And so when you move your spine around, it's having a much bigger impact even than music is going to have, on it. But that's not discounting music. We're saying, there are many different ways to impact the brain in a positive way. But the thing that we didn't know is that the brain is at mercy to the cerebellum, which is in the back of the brain, which movement causes it to turn on. When you turn on the cerebellum, neurologists say that up the neural drive. So if I'm moving with my right side of my body, I'm turning on my right cerebellum. I'm upping the neural drive, which ups the neural drive on the left cerebral cortex, which turns it on. And we do a lot of work with behavioral disorder kids, from ADD all the way to Asperger's autism, because that's really what their problem is. They can't turn their brain on, therefore they can't learn.
I'll show my ignorance, and I do that a lot because it comes naturally, but we actually do have two separate nervous systems, don't we? I mean, we have the brain, but then there's also, is there gray matter that's actually, how does that work? The parts of the body that move have no connection directly with the brain, is that correct?
Yeah, the gray matter is a part of the brain. When you look at it, there are layers of the brain, right, and the gray is the actual nerve cell bodies, and then the white matter is the actual tracts that are coming from it, the axons.
But then down in the spinal column, what's down in there?
In the spinal cord, you have the same thing. You have think of it more like a fiber optic network. And there you have nerves that are coming down and meeting, and then you got nerves that are coming out and going out to the body and coming back. And what most people don't realize is 80% of the nervous system is actually coming from the body going to the brain, and only 20% is coming back.
Well, we have about 17 seconds before we go to a hard break. I want everybody to mark this down. If you want information, I assume this is on your website for them to go to and check this out. It's Advanced Spinal Solution, advancedspinalsolutions.com, and you'll find information there from Dr. Roger R. Elmer. And we're going to be back in about 3 minutes, so stay tuned. This is John Donovan, and we are broadcasting live on wsRadioLV.com, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.
Talk to me. wsRadio.com.